And this is Bob Ost, and it's Friday. So you know what that means, guys. That means it's the TRU Community Gathering. This is number 126th consecutive, or it's 127th. Oh boy. I think it's 126 or 127th consecutive weeks we've been doing this. We started it, for those of you who don't know, for the three of you who don't know, we started it back in April 17th, 2020. It was a response to COVID and shutdown. Everybody was feeling lonely and isolated and didn't know what to do with themselves. And I didn't consider going into bed and throwing the covers over my head to be a particularly productive way of spending the whatever months of shutdown we were going to have. So I thought, well, let's open up a Zoom room and let's get together on Fridays and meet and talk about what we're going through. So that's what we've been doing. Conversations used to be about isolation and what do I do and how do I be creative. And how do I keep people from turning on their video and coming onto the screen with me? But we've sort of skipped over a lot. We've made a great advance. We've had vaccines. We're now on our third flavor of vaccine. Yum! I had it last week. It was delicious. So who knows how many more flavors of vaccine they're going to come up with? But I'm one of those people who believes in the vaccine and believes that preventive measures are useful and helpful and smart. I know a lot of people don't. COVID isn't the dire thing it used to be, but it still is dangerous for a lot of people. And I don't know if you realize this or not, but there are still 400 people a day dying of COVID. 400 people a day. It's not like it used to be, but that's significant. So we have to be mindful. I urge everybody to be mindful. It's a big planet. There's a lot of us here, and not only be conscious of our own health, but be conscious of the people around us. So our conversations are sort of opening up now. I'm going to include a question to Michael and Brenda about how they responded to COVID and what they did during that. But we can now talk about theater. We can talk about live theater and performance. And so today we have my former landlord on the panel. TRU used to actually have our offices in the Players Theater. So I know the Players Theater inside and out, literally. I know it very well. But I didn't know how much your company, you've grown your company and you've grown your services for the community. It's really interesting to me that you've become extremely community minded, and I think it's just really great. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about let's talk about you first, and then we're going to talk about the Players. I care about you guys too. So do we want to do ladies first, Michael? Or
yes, absolutely.
Okay. Sure. So Brenda, tell us about yourself. Who are you, Brenda Bell?
Who am I?
And where's that dog of yours?
He's right here. Bravo.
Okay, good.
Here's your Bravo. Here, Bravo. Come on.
Yes, this is the third partner of the Players Theater.
Bob, he was your cubicle mate for a while, remember?
He was. Yes.
Can you see him?
Yes, yeah. I can. Hello.
Yes, he's still here, still running the theater.
Still does one show a year.
Yeah. Well, I'm Brenda Bell, as you said, and I am a self-producing artist, producer, playwright. Michael and I are writing partners. We've written 12 original, going on 13 original musicals, and they've been produced here at the Players Theater.
I want to ask you something. How many years did you write 13 musicals? I can't write one in 5 years.
Well,
about 14.
I started doing my shows here in 2007, and then we wrote our first show together in 2008.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
so you're averaging about one show a year, guys, aren't you?
Yeah. And actually the show that is running now, this is our 53rd production, Off Broadway production.
53rd production, but okay, well,
yes. So each musical's had multiple. This is actually the third production of Frankenstein.
Oh, I see what you mean. 53rd
Yeah,
production
so they run
of your
multiple times.
14 musicals.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Brenda, tell us a little bit about about your background. I know I know you had a life before the Players Theater. Actually, I'm not sure you did. Did you?
Did I? Well, I started out as a dancer, and I was cast in a production of Carousel, and I quickly fell in love with acting, and so I pursued a career as an actress. But I always found that being on the stage wasn't enough for me. I really had a lot of interest in everything around me, the production, the marketing, just every aspect of it. And so pretty quickly I moved into producing. But I still wanted to act and I still wanted to write. So I felt like
underscore that for everybody, because we have a lot of artists in the room who dread the idea of producing. A lot of people have the misconception that if you become a producer, then somehow or other you sully your art. And I don't believe that at all. And I don't think you believe that at all either.
no.
I think it's smart to be a self-producing artist. And I think it's smart to know how to produce, whether you're producing yourself or not. Producers
Yes.
want to work with you more if you know about the business. The nightmare for a producer is working with somebody who has no idea how things really work.
Yes, that is true. That is true. And no matter what, as a producer or a playwright or a performer, the more you know about the business, the more valuable you are to everyone in the business, and the more you can do for yourself, and communicate with the people on your team and the people who are working on your show.
Yeah, I think that's very important. I hope everybody's hearing that. I know people are still saying, "Oh, I don't want to produce myself. Please don't make me do that." Nobody's going to make you do it, but it's smart. It's a smart thing to do if nothing else is happening and you want to get your work seen. So
Yeah, and you can start small too. I think it's good to start small. If you have trepidation, you're not sure if it's what you want to do, start small. Start, with a reading and see how that feels. And then maybe put something in a short play festival, see how that feels, and just keep moving along.
and
As
you
a
just happen to
popular
have a short play festival.
Yes, we do. Actually, Paul's show is in tonight at the 7 o'clock. Yeah, we do a short play festival here 3 times a year. So in October it's Boo Horror. In February it's Love Romance, and then in June we do NYC, which is kind of a catch-all. Like as long as you write and something about New York City in it, it's good.
And you haven't really gotten to Literally Alive, because I think that's a big part of who you are and what you've done in theater. So tell us a little bit about Literally Alive.
Sure. So I moved I was living in Florida, and in 1996, I decided to come home to roost. I moved to New York City, and I had the idea to start a company that was like family theater focused based on classic literature. And I had convinced a big publishing company to produce me for a year, and I was very excited. I moved up.
I want to hear about that someday.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like a dream come true. I moved up, I got an apartment. I only had enough for 1 month's rent. I had $200 in the bank, but I was like, who cares? Because this big company is going to produce me. And the day that I got there, they
To
called and
everybody
said,
who's listening, this doesn't happen a lot.
yeah, well, this didn't happen. So, yeah, I was coming up to sign, the contracts, and they called me and said, we're really sorry, we had budget cuts and your projects got cut.
Oh,
I had no job, I had no money, and I'm like, I'm not gonna quit. So I went to a temp agency, I got a job, and I met some other people. I remember even at one point I came to a TRU meeting very early on when you first organized, and that was really helpful. But the main thing was I started working on a show, and I set a date. I'm like, okay, in October of 1999, this show is going to open. So what am I going to do? And I raised the money, and I raised it by literally for a year working 2 40-hour jobs. I worked 80 hours a week plus other things, put all the money I could into an account, had a person I was working with. We wrote the show, and it went up at the West Side Y on West 63rd Street. And that was the start of Literally Alive. And I've kind of bounced around from different theaters because they would either close or they, they weren't they didn't have availability. And then one day someone had recommended that I come to the Players Theater, and well, I never left. And here I am. And then,
Everyone,
like,
be
when I started
warned, be
writing
warned.
together. That's right.
Literally Alive, one other question before I turn to Michael. Doesn't it focus on theater for young audience?
It does. Literally Alive. So my umbrella company is Victory Theatrical, which has Literally Alive, which is our family theater shows like The Little Mermaid and Alice in Wonderland and Tico Tales and The Selfish Giant, all those kind of shows. And then Be Bold is not for families. So it's A Christmas Carol and Frankenstein and, Sleepy Hollow and Soon Forever Home.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's two different things. Yeah. But I came here with the family theater program. Yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, October 28th, I'm going to be doing a panel about the TYA.
Oh, okay.
Michael Sgouros. Now, I've heard of you. I'm trying to think how. Drums, something about drums?
Yes, I'm a drummer. That's right. So that's my background. I'm a percussionist. After getting out of music conservatory here in New York, I was a freelance musician. Played a bunch of Broadway shows. I used to sub for Miss Saigon and Phantom of the Opera, Sunset Boulevard. The falsettos actually did. And I also played with a percussion quartet, which traveled about. And that's what I kind of did up until getting involved with the theater. I started getting a little road weary with the percussion quartet, and I came back to New York thinking of like trying to find a piece of property that could support itself as a real estate investment, but then a place where I can do some of my own projects. So something where I didn't have to go out to the audience. The audience could kind of come to us, and actually I had the percussion quartet in mind at the time. And so that's how eventually like I wound up finding the theater, the Players Theater.
So when you took over the Players Theater, what was the state? What state was it in at that point? New York, of course. But what state was it in terms of its viable? Was it open? Was it running, or had it been closed for a while?
I mean, it was open. Like what was nice. I mean, I had started looking for a theater space, and doing the numbers. And there were some spaces that I looked at that it was just the theater. But what was nice about the Players Theater is that the theater itself was only a quarter of the entire building. So like downstairs, I mean, just to go through like what's in the building. Downstairs is Cafe Wa, and so like they're my tenant. So they take up 1/4 of the building. Then the first floor is the Players Theater, the Off Broadway theater, and that was running. Like it was. There wasn't. When I came in, I did some cosmetic work, but there was, there was a grid, there was a dimmer rack, all that kind of stuff. It wasn't like starting from scratch. And then on the second and third floor, there was space for there was some office space, there's rehearsal space. And so so it was a diverse, or it is still like a diverse building, which has some different sources of income, which helps, so that if one kind of falls away, the others kind of are still there.
Now you said 4, so were you meaning the top floor, which you converted into a theater? Would that be the 4th of your?
Well, there's the basement, the first floor, and then the second and third floor. So those are the 4 floors.
Oh.
So you consider the basement.
4 floors. Okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah. So and I mean, when speaking of the
I think, are you frozen?
not as something to rent, just a place to like grow a garden and for kind of clear your head.
Okay. So to tell us a little bit about when we're talking about having you for a guest, I know that I know that you also consider yourself a self-producing artist, and I want to talk to the self-producing artist before I talk to the theater owner. So tell us a little bit more about how you came to form a partnership and why you self-produce.
Are you speaking to Michael or me? Or
No,
both?
this is to Michael now.
Oh,
Yeah,
Oh,
no,
okay.
we heard from you. I know it's the other half of the
Tell
story,
Michael.
but I want to hear it from your lips.
You know, I mean, for when I came into the space, the only show that I produced myself was a show called Percussion People, and it was a
I remember that.
monthly percussion show. It was kind of similar to the percussion quartet I was in. Like we would one of the things that we would do when we were on the road and playing at a venue, or would a presenter would bring us in for like multiple things, not just our regular chamber music concert, but then also for outreach concerts. And so this was a way of just kind of having like a stationary percussion show. And so that one I produced. But then after that, boy, everything, our collaboration, basically Brenda is the producer. So Brenda's the self-producing artist, and I'm the music director, and yeah.
Yeah, I think you're simplifying like how much you have to do with it. I mean, yeah. I mean, yes, I mean, I am the producer, but you've partaken a lot of it, you're definitely, you're steering your own ship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Michael, you have a business head. I mean, let's be honest. You have a business head. You own and run a theater.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I mean, you know what a spreadsheet looks like.
Yes. I know how to work QuickBooks.
Okay, there you go. So let's talk about the evolution of the Players Theater now. It seems to me, I may not have been as aware back when I was your tenant, but it seems you're doing a lot more now for the community than I was aware of back then. How did these programs develop? What made you decide to start programs that were sort of made to help people? I mean, basically, you're trying to help people. You offering people opportunities to develop their works. I mean, we also, let me just say, because let me say this, because I know that this is something that hasn't completely come to fruition yet. I know at one point started the Players Theater Collaborative,
Yeah.
and that you wanted to help preserve and promote performing arts in Greenwich Village. So let's start there. I know that this is something that's still in the works and it's not fully blossomed, but it's an inspiration that you had. So tell us why.
I mean, the not-for-profit wing, that we started, it's a way to kind of, I feel like, to help some of the general missions of the theater itself, which is to present new works by self-producing artists. I mean, I guess in-house, I guess me and Brenda will produce about half of the theater schedule, between the short play festival upstairs and then musicals that we've written together, and then we started the residency program, which I can tell you how that all started. But I think the Players Theater Collaborative is something that we started to kind of help, like, that mission of the self-producing artists that are in the space, and things that they would need, like we talked about, like the ticketing, the free ticketing program, where it's not really up and running yet, but something that would, it's almost like the not-for-profit would, like, buy tickets from the producer, and then they would just give them away as free tickets. But it's not like the show itself is like giving away free tickets. The people that are coming they're getting paid for it. It's just that the not-for-profit is paying for it. That hasn't come completely to fruition yet, but that was one of the items. The other thing is the residency program, and the resident
Oh, did he freeze for anybody
people
besides
over
me?
at the BMI.
Oh, you froze
Excuse me?
for a second, or at least on my screen you did.
Okay. The residency program came out of a discussion with some of the guys over at the BMI workshop. I was in the workshop for a year as an auditor, And one of the guys there, Rick Fryer, he came to me and he expressed a need by some of the writers there. They felt like the first 2 years in the program, the writers like they write like gangbusters, and there's like a lot of work that gets produced, and not produced, but like created. And then they get to the third year and things kind of come to a halt for a lot of them, or things get really slow down. And he felt like part of the reason was there was a lack of opportunity. Like a lot of shows could move on to do a reading, and but the shows were kind of left in the same situation. Like if they didn't get like somebody to just come along and give a lot of money, shows didn't really move forward. You could do a festival, but sometimes the festivals were pretty cost prohibitive, and and it was so what we decided to do was take a number of slots. At first there was just a few, and um have the shows come in. It would be more about the material, so with like not very tech heavy, not like very elaborate, but it would be regular slots. So and we would do a budget, and with the show having a good expectation to kind of be able to kind of make their money back. So if the show didn't move on, it wasn't like an exercise in just putting on the show. Like it's just like you want the show to move on, but if it didn't, like okay, we'll put a show together. It was kind of kept the budget pretty frugal, and walked away and maybe made some money. And boy, if I can put a few of these together each year, now I have a career.
So let me ask you something. Do you act as a consultant and an advisor for the people so that they can keep their budgets down?
Yes,
Because you
yes.
talked
So, like,
about the costs of going
so when
into festivals. Festivals do cost a lot. I mean, you do have to basically produce your piece. They cost
yeah,
less than it would cost if you were producing yourself independently, if you're doing a showcase on your own, because your space costs usually wind up being a little less in a festival, but your performances are also less.
yeah,
So
yeah. And yeah, I'll sit down. Usually, like the shows, there's like two phases of um, for acceptance into the residency. Like the first phase is like artistic excellence. Like everybody submits their material. We have a panel of people that pick from it. Like that read it and look at the material, and they give kind of like thumbs up, thumbs down, if anybody's ever used Submittable. So and then from there, then it moves on to the second round, and the second round is actually a meeting with me, and we sit down and we talk about the show. We talk about a budget. I usually do like a sample budget and kind of base it on some of our experience from some of what the other shows, like what they've been doing, and to see if it's realistic. If like, okay, can you, like, if let's say it was going to be a show that's upstairs, it's like 12 shows, with 12 shows, and the number of actors, what you have in mind, like is it like within range? And it's usually very conservative, and usually like if a show, we do the budget and it's like, oh no, they have to sell out every show for it at an unrealistic ticket price, then we say, well, either we have to adjust the expectations of what you want, how you want to produce the show, or we don't do the show. But if the budget's in range and now they understand like what's involved, and we'll we'll accept them into the program, and then yes, then we meet, I'll meet each show monthly and go through, like I'm starting to have a list of like, okay, this is what a good conversation is, like 7 months out. This is a good conversation 6 months out, and in addition to just kind of checking on like how things are going, how how's the budget doing, has anything inflated, has there been anything unexpected, how you have your auditions set up, you have any questions. So so we try to kind of stay in close contact all the way up until the run, and then even through the run.
I feel like
okay,
we've learned a lot from the residencies, and as time has gone on, we've kind of grown with the program too, I think, as mentors, and started to realize these are the things that everybody kind of doesn't realize or might need a little help on. So we've the monthly check-in has really grown to be an important part of the program. And we really, really do advise them, like, it doesn't matter what your question is or when it is, like anytime, just call us, email us, because it's sometimes things, if they had come to us sooner, we could have helped with. And so now, like, we're getting in front of that. So I feel like we've grown from the program too.
Do you know, I mean, I have a lot of people in the room who have done shows at your theater. Were any of them in the residency program? I don't know. Do you know?
Nope. Yes, there was actually, well, the Symphony for Portland, I mean, he wasn't one of the producers, but he was the COVID officer. Amy Drake was in the program. Actually, her show did really well.
Very well.
And I can't remember.
I don't, I think those are the only
Yeah.
two. We've had a number of people who are there today who have been in the festivals.
So let me ask you this: how if somebody's in your residency program, how long do they normally run at your theater?
So it's a closed-end run. So if it's downstairs in the main stage, it's usually a 5-week run, and it's always 4 shows. It's always like, it's usually Thursday, Friday, Saturday, at 7, and then Sunday a matinee. Sometimes some shows do a Saturday afternoon show too, so that's always an option.
Was Jonathan Hogue and Stranger Things, was he
Yeah.
part of that? Yeah, because
Yeah.
he's one of our masterclass grads.
Yeah, and they
Mhm.
did great.
Yeah.
Boy, they just, and they were great to be in the residency with too. Like, they were
Yeah.
always like really receptive, and we meet each month. They're always very excited.
Yeah.
You know, like some shows like come, they actually, it was the writers, but then also they had a producer. You know, and that's okay too. Like if you're, you know, like it's kind of you need help.
Well,
Sometimes
Jonathan did a lot of his producing.
What's that?
Jonathan did a lot of the producing.
Oh,
Yeah, but they were great.
We
And
we trained him for that.
No, you did a good job. I mean,
Yeah.
and their show, and they ran during a tough point, because they were one of the first shows that came back after COVID, and you know, like the type of show, like we did notice that like younger audiences came back before shows that would be for maybe an older audience, and it was a young audience show, and it was that they had a good audience, you know. And you can see now they're doing they moved onto a theater for open and run, and that's what we hope, you know, like they're a real success story.
I think it's the what used to be the theater at St. Luke's.
Yeah, St. Luke's. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, and I think they're planning on doing a London run and a couple of yeah, they are a success story. They worked really hard and they were very successful.
To the room, I just want to remind you that you can put questions into the chat, or any comments that you want to make, or any points that you need clarified as we're having our conversation. Please feel free to be part of this. Participate, guys, participate. So I'm trying to think.
So, and I should say, like our arrangement with, once we take a show, is basically a split of the house. There's, you know, it's like there's some things that we provide that are part of that, like a board op and box office. But basically, once we accept somebody and we're doing it, it's just a split of the house.
I want you to know that when I advise people, and I advise people a lot, I tell them not to anticipate making their money back on developmental things at this point. Do you think that you provided an opportunity for them to make their money back that would be better than normal?
I think what we're yeah, I mean, we're definitely going into it like with a very conservative budget. And so, you know, like most shows, it's like we're making a budget where you know, like if let's say, I mean, just for an example, you know, let's say it's like tier pricing downstairs of like, you know, 60, 50, $40 tier, you know, like when trying to figure out a budget, we're assuming discounting. And so like we'll consider like more like a $30 ticket is probably going to be like the average.
Okay.
And then in terms of like the number of seats, like we're definitely not anticipating like 100. I mean, the house holds 200, but most of the budgets are like, if they're kind of coming in within that 50 to 100 range. So that's, you know, and it
Froze.
you know, like I mean, Brenda can definitely talk more about from like the producing end and how you kind of try to keep costs down, and we're but yeah, like we try, because this is, it's more about the material, like it's, we're trying to um it is that festival mentality, but not the schedule of a festival, if that makes sense. So like
Right,
we're
right,
a
right.
festival, like you're putting things up. I mean, I know a lot of people can spend a lot on a festival, but maybe we try not to try to keep that in check as well, and just think like, okay, it's this is not, this is not the final stage of the show. Hopefully this is like a launching pad. So
Hey,
Okay,
Michael, it's Jane Dubin. There's a couple of questions in the chat. I thought it'd be a good time to ask them.
sure.
Andre's asking what the conservative average budget is for a show, and then whether your company can act as a fiscal agent if people are soliciting grants and donations.
fiscal sponsor.
Yeah,
Fiscal
I
sponsor.
mean, we've never been a fiscal sponsor, but there's definitely like other places where you can be. I mean, I know TRU, for example. Yeah,
Like
definitely.
true, yeah.
So yeah, so but I would say the budgets are somewhere, depending whether it's upstairs or downstairs. Upstairs, probably between five and like around the $5,000, $8,000 range. Downstairs, maybe between like 10 and 15,000. So it's really, it's pretty tight, but
It kind of depends on the show, of course,
The
it
size,
varies.
there's the size of cast. And
Size of the cast, is it
let's
a
also
period
clarify.
show, that
yeah,
kind of stuff.
like in
yeah.
general, like if it's going to be an equity show, most of them, it's since it's under.
Oh, you do have some equity shows.
There are some, yeah, and so but usually it's a
Upstairs.
showcase code, yeah. So
Yeah, we don't recommend doing a equity show downstairs, because then it just skyrockets the budget for them. But an equity
Because you can't
showcase is
do it
affordable.
in a theater that's more than 99 seats.
Right.
So
right.
if they're going to do the show in
So-
your 150 seat or 200 seat theater, then they have to go into a different contract. They can't use
Yes.
a showcase. So
Lot
the
more
Marie,
complicated for a
the Marie
newbie.
Sgouros, the Marie and who is it? Sgouros
Edie
Theater?
Marie, that's my parents. So
Okay, yeah.
renamed it after them.
Yes. So that's about 60 seats. Is that correct?
50 seats. Yeah.
50.
Yeah.
We used to squeeze 60 in there.
Yeah, and then we had another question from Paul asking to determine how you determine artistic excellence.
It's like it's we have a panel of people, and everybody has different tastes, and like what we try to do with the panel is take it from a lot of different perspectives. There are people that have theater backgrounds. There are some people on the panel that don't have theater backgrounds, and it's we like, I usually just tell them, like, say if you like it or not. Like, is this something that you think you would go and see? It's I mean, and you get different perspective from somebody who has a theater background, and maybe they'll dig into like the more intricate of the intricacies of the show and how it's written. And other people just like, hey, this is something, boy, I would love to see this. Like, this really intrigues me, and and not just reading the script itself, but also when they'll submit other material as well, like their marketing plan and some of the marketing material they've already created. And sometimes like they have done like maybe some smaller productions of it, and they have things that were created from that, and so it's like all of it is taken into consideration from on that stage, on the artistic excellence stage.
Yeah,
So
I will say that
in addition to
sorry.
artistic excellence, it seems to me that your process really looks for pieces that you think have the best chances of succeeding.
Yeah, that's what I
So-
was just gonna say. Yeah. We definitely, I feel like we look at things that we feel that they can do it, they can do it well, and they can be successful. So if it's something that it doesn't fit the space, or we don't feel that they have enough expertise to pull off, then we're probably going to pass on it.
And who decides whether they do it in the small theater or the big theater?
I mean, again, that's something that maybe me and Brenda will discuss a little bit. I'll discuss with maybe some of the other people on the panel. Usually if it's a larger production, usually musicals are downstairs, like Stranger Things was downstairs. We just had a musical downstairs, Here There Be Dragons, and Audrey, based on the life of Audrey Hepburn. Those are all musicals, those were downstairs. We do have some plays that are downstairs. Spit and Vigor is going to have a play down there, and actually that's actually an interesting uh, example. Sarah Fellini, her company, started off with one show, and it was a play. It was downstairs, and then we loved working with them, and we really we really liked their, from not just the artistic excellence side, but just from how they market, how they run, and so it's kind of fallen into like, okay, like they have a slot, they have like that January slot downstairs. So
Yeah.
Well, can I just say that from a realistic point of view, the point of doing developmental productions of shows is to learn about your show. I just want to make the unfortunate statement that it's not about making money, and it's not about necessarily breaking even, although Michael and Brenda, from your producing point of view and from your theater point of view, you want things to succeed, and you want audiences to come. But I tell people this all the time: don't do it because you have to make your money back. Do it because you want to develop your piece. You want to see how it works in front of an audience. You want to learn about your show. In the case of Stranger Things, Jonathan, I think Jonathan learned a lot from the production, and I think things changed a little bit in the subsequent production that he's doing now. But it was an invaluable experience for him. I know that. And also Ivan Rodden is here, and Ivan wants to remind you that he has a show coming of his in your residence in January.
the dog show, yeah,
Yes.
it's great.
Yeah.
And actually, Ivan's a great example. Boy, he's like, we meet, we have great conversations.
He's got all his stuff
We
together.
already have like his postcards
Yeah.
outside. It's like,
Yeah.
he's doing,
Yeah, Bob, I would like to say that you are right. I mean, it's always great to make your money back, and you don't want anyone spending their mortgage money or their rent money to put something up. But one thing you will definitely get out of doing any kind of self-producing project is you will get experience, and it is invaluable, and you will learn things, and not only just about producing, but about your work. I feel like that is the best thing you get. If you have an opportunity to sit there in front of a live audience of people who don't know you for 12 times and notice what works and what doesn't work in your show, like that is just an amazing experience to have. And I feel like the playwrights who take advantage of that really go on to do yet another more successful run, because they've had a chance to hone in the show more.
yeah.
Agreed.
Actually, that's one of the nice things also about the Short Play Festival, because like
I was about to use that as a segue into the short play stuff. Go for it.
well, the only thing I'll say about it is that it's not one night. It's like they're in for the week. So that's 4 audiences. You'll get to kind of you get to see what's happening with your work.
Yeah.
It's tough actually, because we did Forever Home in the is it the New York one in June?
Yes.
And boy, like it's I mean, I played vibraphone on it, and it's tough. Like like ready, you're on.
Yeah.
You play. And,
Give us your best 20 minutes.
But we got we got a lot out of it.
Yeah.
So.
So what is the running time for the short play festival? How long can a piece be?
15 minutes.
And how strict are you about that? Would you?
If it goes over 20, you don't. We do a weekly winner, so by audience vote. So, but if your show is over 20 minutes, you won't be eligible to win. So basically, it's kind of like it's 20 minutes, but we tell them 15, because if you tell them 20, they'll go 25. So, yeah.
There's a cushion.
And Paul, please close your ears. The inside secret.
Yes.
Important question here as we're talking about these 2 different programs. Is it an ongoing selection process, or are there deadlines for the play festival or the residencies?
there's deadlines for both.
Yeah.
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 So right now for the residency program, we just opened up the next round, and the deadline is December 1st, and that's actually basically for slots in 2024. So it's like, oh, most of 2023 is taken. There's like one or two. There might be a December slot still open, but yeah. So it's usually like a year out for the residency program. For the short play festival, it's three times a year, and then
Yeah, like for instance, so we opened last night with Boo, and next week we'll put the submissions open for the February show Love. So kind of as one actual festival opens in the theater, then we open submissions for the next one.
So this explains
And
why Paul Smith's Nightmare is going to be on stage, because it's part of the Boo Festival. Now it all ties together.
Yeah.
Now I understand.
Yes.
one more question related to that. Is there a fee for the short play festival? Admission,
No.
a submission fee?
There's no submission fee. If your play is selected, there is a $50 tech fee.
Which is a good thing. I mean, you need somebody to run tech for you.
Yeah, it
Right.
helps a little bit with the cost. Yeah.
And one more question, if your show has already had a run, and Josh Raff is asking specifically, he's going to be in the United Solo this year, would you still qualify to be in the residency program?
yes, yeah. So yeah, we've had a couple of shows that I think have done the New York Theater Festival, and then and actually sometimes that works, that helps, because like they do have an idea of like what it costs to put that up, and so then we can kind of use that as a starting point, like, okay, well, what did you pay your director, what did you pay your lighting person, what did it cost you for your costumes, and then we can kind of start to use that as, how would we do it differently here, and now that you have 12 performances instead of 2 or 3, so
Great, I think we're caught up.
Okay. I want to cover one other thing that you've done, because it was an interesting pivot. Let's talk about what happened when COVID struck. How did you cope with that? I think there's a lot of things in the works that probably had to be stopped. I mean, we hear it's a common story, but let's hear your story, because we know that COVID was a rude interruption for many.
oh boy.
It was rude, very unexpected. We were actually doing The Little Mermaid at the time. We were, I guess, 2 weeks into the run, and I remember like saying to the cast, "All right, well, we're gonna take this week off. I'm sure we'll be back in a couple of weeks, So, and then
Is that blowing the horn outside your window? Okay.
And yeah.
As long as it's not me.
Yeah, and then 8 months later, the set was still up, and we weren't back. I don't know. We found
You probably went through with the rest of us. It'll only be 4 weeks, so
exactly,
let's not shut down yet, because we're going to be opening in 4 weeks. Well, maybe it'll be 8 weeks. Maybe it'll be New Year's. Maybe it'll be 4th of July. Maybe ittle be Labor Day. At what point did you finally know that that it was just not happening, that we were closed?
I don't know if we ever, came to that reality. What we wound up doing is, it's like we have a bookstore, and we had just started the bookstore, and interestingly, that was actually the one thing that came back quickly, because like stores were able to reopen, like I think by, I forget, like maybe by June or so. Yeah. So and what we were doing, like when the pandemic, as soon as it hit, was we started this weekly musical story time with Bravo. So we would take one of the children's books that we had in the bookstore, I would orchestrate some music to it, and we'd bring Bravo down, and we would do these musical story times.
Bravo is the dog.
Yeah. So
in case you're wondering.
Yeah, so he would sit there, we'd read the book to him, and we were able. It's funny because that's how we kind of kept track of how many weeks we were closed. Like, this is book number 1, 2, number 5, number 10.
Number
so
50.
50. Yeah, we got up to 50. So And
And I'm at 127.
yeah, right. So
Yeah.
and like we did try to think about streaming, and we experimented with yeah, recording, and it didn't really go well for us. So I don't think
You
we.
know, yeah. I feel like it's kind of funny. Like we didn't want to give up. We felt like once they said we could reopen, we had to be ready to put something up, but it takes a while to get a show up. So we were trying to kind of guess. So we thought, well, maybe we can open in October. So we went through with all the COVID protocols and everything, and we rehearsed Sleepy Hollow, hoping we could open. We were allowed to have like a really small audience, a non-paying audience. So
Right.
we had that. And then we're like, well, we don't want it to be a waste. So we filmed it. Then we did the same thing with A Christmas Carol, the same thing. Like we tried to put it up and then taped it, and then we finally were like, all right, now we're gonna wait. But luckily, like as soon as we were able to open, we had some smaller shows that were ready to go,
Yeah.
improv shows, and then we got our Cinderella up within a couple of weeks. Like we were just all ready to go. Yeah.
I just want to underscore the point that Michael was making before is that their COVID pivot was to open up a bookstore. I mean, I want you to hear this. And how many books did you have? Where did they come from? How did you fill the?
Well, the bookstore. I mean, the bookstore was up and running before COVID, but only like a few months before.
Oh, okay.
So probably we had started it in the fall, and actually funny, that kind of came out of going to a show at the York Theater, and we saw that they were selling scripts and music from past shows, and we were like, oh, this would be great. Like, why don't we take the lobby and like we can do the same thing? And we started doing some research. We got involved with this National Bookstore Association called American Booksellers Association, and then NIBA, which is like the North American Booksellers Association, and they helped us along. That they have like TRU. That it's like there's an organization to kind of help new bookstore owners, and so we got involved with that, and we got the bookstore up and running, and then of course then everything closed, but that was like the one thing that we were able to kind of keep going. So we kept it.
Kept the business.
Yeah.
Well, kudos
building
to you
open.
for
Yeah.
I mean, we all had to be flexible in some way or
being
another.
denial.
And we all found our ways to pivot. I went from somebody who said, "What is Zoom?"
Yeah.
Being the Zoom guy, like I'm here every Friday.
Bob, we have a
How did
question.
that happen? So there's
Bob,
a couple
we
of
have a
questions.
question.
Yeah.
Michael and Brenda, continuing on the COVID theme, now that we're open, how have the audiences been compared to pre-COVID times?
What percentage is your Norman?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when we first came back, it was really rough. I will say, like, in fact, we opened with Cinderella, and it was very hard. Families were not coming back at all, and so basically, we had almost all adults coming to family theater, but they were just so happy to have something to come back to. Now, like, we're going into our second, like, post-COVID, post kind of season. We're definitely doing much better than last year, but still not up to where we were pre-COVID, but much better.
Yeah.
Yeah, much better.
There's another question that about your residency that came up. This is from Jeffrey Lyle Siegel. When a show presents in the residency program, it becomes the primary tenant in that space for that time, or is there any shared? So you don't do any.
Like so for example, like Stranger Things, like they're the main thing in the space. There's other things like downstairs is Monday Night Magic, and there might be some improv, but their sets, their lighting, like anything that is it would work around that. So like usually like what the shows that go in, like we make sure that they're able to clear the main portion of the stage, but if they have like larger set pieces, like they can still have like the back wall and then the curtain closes so that Monday Night Magic can do their thing. So
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
so
so-
they are sharing the space to some
They
degree.
are.
yeah.
No, you've never worked with, I mean, Ed Gaines uses periodic performance code with equity, so that he splits his week from three to five shows, just sharing space. Have you ever considered doing that with your theater?
No, I mean it's
Well, it's up to the producer, right?
yeah, because it I mean the way our like what we've settled into is like just one show being the main thing, and then there might be like one-offs like Monday Night Magic or some improvs that work around it, but there's always just like the one thing in the space. And then when it comes to like the contracts, like I mean, to be honest with you, like I've never had to deal directly with equity. I've just whatever I know about equity is always secondhand. So, so the shows that come in, we can talk about like, oh, is it what would be best for their show, and then but then it's up to them whether they want to do it equity, do it non-equity, and contact equity and take care of everything that has to go on with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's complicated when you're running on an equity contract. But to be honest, most of the terms in the equity agreement are reasonable terms that you might want to apply to your show, even if you're working with non-equity people.
Sure.
So, but there are a couple things that become very complicated. So.
Yeah.
Jeffrey's asking his question because he's got an ulterior, he's got an agenda. He's got a hypnosis show, and he's wondering whether he could. Do you do Monday Night Magic right now? I don't. You are doing Monday Night Magic. So how about Tuesday Night Hypnosis? So Jeffrey, did I ask for you? Is that what you're hoping for?
You certainly did, Bob. That's the question.
That we'd probably have to talk about it.
Yeah, we talk about that, not on Zoom. Yeah, we could certainly something that you could definitely email us about for sure.
Jane, did I miss anything else? I'm going through here.
I think we were good. I think we were caught up.
We're caught up. Okay, so this is it, guys. This is 6:26. So guys, do you have any other questions for them? Because they're gonna have to leave at 6:30 because they have a show at 7.
Anybody?
I put something in the chat, Bob. It's Francisco.
Okay, I have to go hunt for it now. Let me find it. Okay. I see what you have in the chat. Well, maybe it's not the question. Maybe there's something else. It's the question. I don't see a question from you, friend.
No, it's just a thank you to both of them.
Sure.
Thanks to both Upstairs with Christian Kyber and Bill Sorvino, Brazen Giant Ensemble. I have developed 2 one-hour play scripts.
Yeah.
Yeah, we like Brazen Giant.
Hey Bob, could you repeat? Could somebody repeat, like, because they said the residency shows are what, 12 performances? Is that what I heard? Yeah. Okay.
So upstairs in the black box, it's 12 performances. Downstairs in the main theater, it is 20.
20, right? But it's that schedule usually like Thursday, Friday, Saturday at 7, and then Sunday matinee, either 2 or 3.
One more question in that regard is, how many shows do you pull into the residency program altogether?
So so on a given year, there's 4 slots downstairs, and then there's how many
9?
upstairs? No, it's not that many.
Well, I guess maybe 8.
Like 8, like 8 slots upstairs. So I mean, it's pretty competitive because I mean, at this point now we've been doing the residency for 5 years, and so we'll get a lot of shows, that submit proposals.
I have a
Can you
question.
give them an email for them to contact you if people have a question?
I think you put it in.
Yeah,
there,
I put it in the chat. I put my email and Brenda's email, and then also the website for the theater, which has a link to apply for the residency if they'd like to.
And that's live now, right? Because
It is.
when I looked at it, it wasn't.
Yeah, because when we talked, it was before October 1st. It just went live October 1st. So,
All right.
um,
Yeah. I do, Bob, we have a second, I do have one thing. I feel like from watching all the shows come through, there is one piece of advice I do have for the self-producing artist. And I feel like it's when you are the producer, like you're not just the artist anymore. You know how we are all very vulnerable as artists and, and very whimsical. When you're also the producer, you have to be steering the ship, and your job is to support your team. And so I think it's really important to realize that you're there for them. They're not there for you. And you're all working towards a common goal, but it's really important to be generous to your team and to support them. And like what you can go home and cry to your spouse, your dog, your partner, your therapist, but in the room, you've got to be strong. You've got to look like, because people will, that's what makes things fall apart the fastest, I think.
with our
When they
residencies,
don't, when everybody around them doesn't trust the person who's leading the team. So
And there's another way of putting,
little advice.
and I put that, it's basically you have to know which hat you're wearing. When you're functioning as a producer, don't wear your writer hat. And
Yes.
it's not all about you, and it's not all about the play, it's about the production when you're the producer, right?
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
I think that's very excellent advice, Brenda. People, I think you have to have a little bit of objectivity when you're the producer. We don't expect writers to have any objectivity whatsoever. It doesn't matter. But when you're the producer and you're wearing that hat, step back from it and take a look at what the big picture is for everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that, Brenda. I think that's very important, and I think it's a good way for us to end this. So, if you, I'm trying to get you out at 6:30, but do you have a couple more minutes, or no? You don't. So I'm just gonna say my final words.
yeah, we should, yeah.
I'm going to
Unfortunately,
say my thank yous to you then. Thank you, Michael Sgouros, and thank you, Brenda Bell, and to everybody out there. This is the Players Theater. It's not just a theater; it's also a place that's going to offer you opportunities as a self-producing writer, as a producer. I mean, if you have a show to do, of course you want to contact them for the theater itself. But bear in mind that there are programs for you as a writer, and there are opportunities for you to develop your play with their help and their support. So. It's the Players Theater, everyone. I just, again, to remind you. So this is it for us on Friday. YouTube viewers and podcast listeners out there, if you want to be part of the room and you want to ask questions and be part of the conversation, and also just experience the live, unedited version of these conversations, email me at trunltd@aol.com. That's trunltd@aol.com, and put Zoom in your headline, and we'll Zoom you every week. We'll just send you the links so that you can join us. Next week, I'm trying to remember. Next week, I think I have Emelina Pedigo and Mike Roderick are going to come. They're both artistic coaches, and they're going to be talking about their specific methods to help you as an artist grow and achieve your goals. And we have other things. We have the conversation about theater for young audiences coming up. So be part of us. And we do this for free. However, it does say pay what you can. So if you can pay something, we would appreciate it very much. And you would go to TRUDonate, TRUDonate.com, all of you out there. That's TRUDonate.com. Please consider it. Consider giving us a donation. Now that live theater is back, and now that we're going to have to start booking spaces, our budgets are going to go up a little bit, and we really need the help and the support. So thank you all for being with us, and please tune in every Friday at 5:30. 5 o'clock, you actually come into the room, and 5:30 we start our conversations. And that's it, everyone. YouTube viewers and podcast listeners, thank you for being with us. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Bob.